When you think of a hunting farm, this is probably the farthest thing from what you're envisioning in your mind. But stay with us to the end of the video, and we're going to share with you some of the things you could do to this place to make it an awesome hunting farm. The habitat that this place backs up into is so vast. You got that huge block of timber to the north and to the south. This piece is sandwiched right in the middle of those two blocks of timber. Currently, this place is an Aronia berry farm. Like, you see it on an aerial and it's kind of lackluster and not the most exciting. You have to zoom out to get excited because it's showing you what surrounds it. But being there, I think it was a combination of the deer sign that we saw, and then like the berry bushes being kind of scruffy, and it just feels like you could turn this into like an overgrown CRP field relatively easily, and it would be sick for deer. One of the things that I would think that you could do is I'd recommend getting the habitat increased with some grasses in between all of those bushes. And to do that, you could spray it. You could spray out all that grass. It's like pasture fescue type grass. You could either spray that out like in the fall, and it would come back with all the native seed that's in the seed bank, or plant it in like a native prairie mix or a switchgrass. You'd have like all those rows of berry bushes in between the grass, and it would act as like a windbreak and a barrier. You're adding more security. You're helping the grass stay more vertical. Like when snow blows in the wintertime, it's protecting it from drifting snow, from wind. I would put a food plot on there and come into like a blind on the center of the ridge where you have a good view of the entire place. Currently, there's not a whole lot of spots for a tree stand. There is a few on the peripheral. Then, of course, that point of woods that comes down.
Somebody obviously doesn't have to use that idea for the food plot area. It's just how once somebody gets on the farm and sees where that centralized plot is, and it feeding from the fingers and feed all those trails and natural deer movement that we've seen led to that centralized location where that plot was. You could take the Aronia berries out if somebody wanted to put it back in production. It is a relatively fertile soils.
And it lays nicely for a traditional farm as well. This current owner just is in the Aronia berry world. And so he planted it as such.
Yep, absolutely. And up front on the southeast corner where you access off County Road, Highway C there's obviously a very nice lean-to shed, if you want to call it that. And then there's water, electricity already to rock and roll. You know, and the views, like when Justin and I walked it in the spring, I think it was, and Luke and I walked it the spring prior to, and it was, I mean, the views are just absolutely gorgeous from there. Somebody could easily put a building site there, obviously, and put a home and just enjoy what's there, or change it and manipulate the habitat to turn it into a top-notch whitetail piece.
Yeah, it's pretty much a blank slate because the whole piece of property is pretty functional. It's got a nice gentle roll to it, so you can do about anything you want to this. If you just wanted a piece of property to turn into traditional row crop with a phenomenal building site, it's that. Okay, I put a little label here as to where I think a house would be perfect on this. This sits on the ridge top. I don't want to call it a ridge, but I'll say the crest of the hill. It's like I said, it's a gentle roll. Got phenomenal views right here. You're still within close proximity of the pole shed and, you know, just the main entrance to the property. Your water and electric are already right here. As I would want to make this a mixture between income and hunting, just because of my personality. So what I would be tempted to do is I would basically take the entire southern half of this farm and turn it back into traditional row crop, into a corn and beans rotation. So you can kind of see where the way this lays out here. I would be tempted to take this whole section down here and turn that back into a traditional row crop. Yeah. And then this northern half, that's my playground. One thing that I want to point out too, which is kind of a neat feature about this, is just the natural contour of this. This is kind of the crest of the hill up here. Okay. So from the road, anybody that's on the road, you can't see this back here. All this is hidden from the road on the north end of it. So, if you've got a big deer back there that's feeding, whatever, you don't have to stop. You don't have to worry about them stopping and gawking at it and, risking them running it off. And I think for me, I love the idea of leaving this alone to a degree, right around this, very much around this little finger here, planting some switchgrass or native prairie grass in there to just really try to make this area comfortable for them. I know they're bedding in here already in this finger. And then if you could do some strategic food plots out here on the center of the property, potentially right over here on the eastern side, coming out of this finger, it would create some beautiful, beautiful stand locations for both bow and rifle. And I think it's a matter of simply enhancing it with some grasses and stuff in certain areas, and then adding a couple small food plots. Not even small. You have a chance to put some pretty significant food plots in there, and I actually recommend it. I'm a fan of the more significant the plot, the more of a destination that plot is going to be for a deer. So I also kind of thought if you could add some water to it as well.
Yeah, put like a watering hole in too. Yeah, and playing off your security that natural topography, that how those deer are using that north end of the property. I think they just have that natural security already because they know they can't be seen back there, and I think they move pretty freely east, west, north, south on that northern half of that property. I mean, there really wasn't a unbeaten down. It was cattle pass back there, to be honest.
There's some fence crossings coming in, like from the north and the east, that are just like the opening in the fence is like dirt because the deer are crossing there so often, and they're like where you put that water, they're coming around the tip of that finger of woods too, like unbelievable.
Yeah, they are. It's insane.
Yeah. So this is a very classic example of a blank slate type property that could be easily overlooked as a hunting property. It actually has the makings to be a really phenomenal. Is it traditional in the sense of it's big timber with a lot of tree stand locations? Of course not. However, you can manipulate this property to turn it into a haven back there that becomes a true destination point for every deer in this area. Again, zooming back a little bit, and you can see like there's not a ton of row crop in the area. There's a lot of pasture. There's a lot of hay.
And if there is anything to the west of that farm, which going to have to skirt, they're either going to skirt that property, which maybe right now they're staying on those edges and on the northern half. But if you put some destination plots in there, make them stop, make a staging plot for them to go to that big ag at some point. But I agree, you have a ton of opportunity with, there's not a ton of tillable crop in the area.
We didn't see much evidence of hunting. Like the northeast looks like a cattle. It's like a cattle pasture. And the piece to the east is really thick and nasty down that valley. You can kind of peek in there, and we didn't see any tree stands or anything in there.
No,
there's like that by the Mickelson Drive. That's all like an alfalfa field right now.
Yep.
And that Mickelson Drive is more of like a driveway than a road.
It's a private road, yeah, essentially.
Yep.
We drove down this road
Oh,
just
yeah.
to check this out. What was there, 12 to 15 deer?
Yep,
running
McMahon's
across the
Road, and
headed north.
that big valley in there. You drive down that road, and it's literally the paths through, where they cross the road. It's just indented, like it's just like its own valley. It's all cattle pathed up from deer, and obviously it's thick and nasty in there too. I mean, there's some good breaks. There's good habitat breaks in there. As you're driving, you can see a lot of different edges and habitat breaks. And I think they're spending a lot of time. They got the food, they got the water. It's in seclusion, really. I mean, it's in a part of Crawford County that, I mean, heck, even on County Highway C there on where the entrance sits, it's really not that busy. With as many times we've been out there a few times, and I think we've seen a couple local trucks drive by, and I mean, it's people travel on it obviously, but it just seems very secluded and kind of tranquil, to be honest. And I think deer are spending a lot of time in that area for sure.
I'd put Crawford County up against like
everywhere,
any of the big deer known areas. I mean, we can splice in some pictures here. We don't have anything from this particular property, but
that's some good. Yeah,
we can show some examples of some deer in Crawford County, not too far from this place, that are world class.
Definitely.
If you're comparing this to like a 40 that's all woods, and you like having a vision in your head for what you want the place to become and converting the place into where your vision is in your head, a 40 that's all woods is much more difficult logistically to do that.
Yep.
You have an open farm like this, it's wide open. You can plant trees, you can plant grass, you can plant food plots. You don't need to like clear out the woods to be able to do that.
Where that food plot is in our video, we got that centralized location there, and just sitting in that with a green plot early season, and then maybe throwing the late season plot in, and having like a big scrape tree in the middle there, and just seeing some giants funnel out of that finger and hit that scrape tree in the middle of the plot. Like, just
how good would that feel?
It
always feels good when you see big deer.
Morning, for sure.
When you see big deer read the script, and I think this is set up to where that's what this property is. It's you put out the script, and they're gonna read.
They're gonna read it. There's no doubt. They have to.
Yeah, this is a fun one, man.
It is.
I'm excited about it for whoever buys this piece.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can kind of follow their journey a little bit and see what they do with it. And throughout the year, see how good they do, if they do as well as we think they will.
Yep.
Yeah. I honestly, I really do. I think they'll do very well with it. It's fun because it really is a sleeper. If somebody wants to turn this into a fantastic little hunting piece, the pieces are there. The pieces of that puzzle are there.